In this video, I want to cover some of the updates we've made in version 4.4 of our ESS Perl application in regards to what we call card listing or the card lister widget. And this applies to both the search results page as well as the check status page. So I'll start at the check status page just to highlight kind of what it looks like. Now, from an appearance perspective, it's not going to render a lot differently than what you had in the past as far as the list of records that go. But a couple things that are happening behind the scenes is in the past, you'll see this count here is 99 records. The way we were getting this data from the old card lister widget is we'd go grab all 99 records, build them into a JSON object, and then AngularJS kind of paginate through those records. Now what we're doing is we're using, I'll show you the functions here in a second, is we're basically just getting 10 records at a time. So we're basically doing the paginations on a server-side route and only getting, in this case, the number of records that we have listed here. And so performance should be better. We're also applying filters on a server side rather than a client side, so we can be more efficient in terms of does this go after and get just these 2 records that we need to get for where the open by equals David Liu, for example. Right, so a little better from a performance perspective. Also, we can make use of some additional sorting, and I'll highlight some default filter options. The other thing I should highlight here, you'll notice as I make adjustments to my filters, the URL changes. So basically I can just do a refresh in this page. It's going to apply the filters I've already got defined here as part of my URLs. So let's look at the widget itself. So one of the things I want to highlight here in terms of the widget, in the past we had separate templates that we defined. Now what you'll find is that the widget itself has inline templates, so they're defined in the HTML itself rather than as separate template records. But I mentioned the change to the server side, so you'll see some functions in here. These are kind of taking the inbound adjustments to say go get cards. So if we go look at the get cards function, I want to highlight some things that are going on in here. You'll see updates primarily to our card lister object and new functions here called get cards paginated, which basically take the number of records you want to get for this filtered list of cards, and then what sort fields to apply. And this returns back this page data variable, which is notable in that it stores information about which records were queried, which page we're currently on, what location references do we have for those records that we got back. In essence, it's keeping the metadata about that kind of collection of data that we're paginating through. You also see functions for get next page, as well as go to a particular page. And so as far as the source code, you'll see these same functions in here as far as the source code, get cards paginated. There are a few others in here just to highlight. I mentioned next page, go to page, previous page. There's also a get total page count, the build page list, which is an array of what pages to show at the bottom. And then also I want to highlight there is a function which is kind of a shortcut. Show it here in a minute, called get most recent. So in essence, you can build a card lister, say you give me the 10 most recent records. It's basically applying a sort for updated numeric and getting that paginated list of the top 10 records from most recent. Now you're going to see this in a couple places. You'll see this like on this particular theme's homepage. Right, so this is where we're getting the top 5 most recent tickets of our list of ticket records. Now you'll notice a couple of ways that this new widget gets applied. You'll see these are the page is still our old legacy page, EVG check status. You also see the same page for search results. Now the way this gets activated as part of a 4.4 installation is through the page routes. And so you'll see there's page routes that I've created out here for going from the old check status page to our new check status page. And so the new check status page has the new widgets on it. Has this new experience, has the new server-side code. So these page routes need to be added in order to leverage the new kind of the new widgets. Same applies to our search results page. You'll see one for the current search results page. Route that to the new search results page that has the new widget loaded. Now there is a fixed script that we packaged with this, which looks like this, which basically goes through and says for these different page routes that we want to add, the check status page, the approvals page, the search results page, route those to these new page widgets that we're leveraging to make use of this new card lister functionality. Now to activate this, so you can run this fixed script, what you may find is it may not work because there is some permissions you need to add to this table to allow it to add on itself. So if you go to the table, you'll see in my case, I've already added those authorizations, which allow other applications to do creations or updates to those page route tables. So you could also copy and paste that fixed script, run it in your background scripts in a global scope to add those page routes through a more programmatic method. Another just subtle feature that's on here that I want to highlight, you'll see this is a kind of our what we call kind of our card view. So you'll see this on this new lister widget, the card view, but there's also now a new grid view or list view that's an option. And what you'll find is that if I leave and I've toggled my switch to the view, it is a preference as well. So when I come back into the check status page, you'll see it's back into my grid or list view that I've got before. And this is kind of a simplified table-based view. I can still do my favorites. I can still click on and see the details. I can also perform some of those additional actions through kind of a button, but I don't have the ability to open and collapse and see more details than we had before. The other thing to highlight is if I go and look at instance options, you'll see kind of the options have been simplified here. Which cards are we going after? Which ones are we excluding? What are we sorting? Number of records per page? Whether or not we have that grid option as an option to show here. So if I save that, you'll see what happens here is that my ability to do that presentation toggle doesn't exist. There's another new option. This is primarily useful for the check status page, or if you're listing a set of status objects. We had a couple customers that needed the option to say, I want to be able to show all incident tickets that are part of my department, right? Things of that nature, allowing that permissions allow you to do that. So we have this enforce contact fields option. So if I uncheck this, what you're going to find is that in essence what it's going to go after and display is going to be all incidents requests or all active incidents requests for the whole system and not just for me, right? Because it's not going to apply or enforce those contact specific permissions. So this is basically all tickets for individuals, not including myself. Right, so that's kind of what that enforce contacts option does as well. So let's look at the search page, and I'll show you kind of the same widgets in play on the search page. So here you see here the search page basically has the same option. This one does have it disabled where the grid view is kind of disabled. That's why you don't see that toggle select suggestion at the top. I'll talk about the digimini in a minute, but first of all, before I go there, I want to highlight that there is kind of a new option built into this search page kind of component as well, is that we've built in the accommodation for some of these commingling status cards with your other kind of card object types. So for example, if I want to include incidents on here, I want to include requests on my search result page, we've kind of accommodated that. So I can set this as my different incidents and requests on this page. When I come back and do a search for email, we'll see incidents and requests kind of commingled in here, right? So if I look at incidents, this is going to match my open incidents that match on the keyword term of email. Right, and if I open these up, I'll see the same kind of information that I saw before. Right, I also have the option to kind of jump to those particular tickets and see the details of those. And same for requests. Now in terms of this digimean feature, this is in essence activated part of the search page. Now this one is dependent on a couple of additional properties being activated. So you'll see on the search settings part, there's an area here where it says, do you want to show digimean searches? But this requires you activate a couple of properties. You'll see this glide ts.dyn.enable. And there's two different properties for that. Both of these have to be set to true in order for the digimean search engine of ServiceNow to be leveraged. And then we'll basically piggybacking off of that to get some phrases that you could have used to search instead of the one that you searched as far as other suggestions. Now, last thing I want to highlight is some of the display of these items in the lister themselves. So you probably already saw there's a few additional kind of changes display-wise for these ticket records, like these requests and incidents. You will see kind of this bubble conversation in here. So this is kind of a new display of what's the description, what was the recent update, kind of a conversational component that's displayed in here. If we go back to all tickets, all records, and we'll go look at catalog items. First of all, we'll go through this. You'll see this has a different display of information in terms of displaying a little bit of that particular catalog item, kind of how it looks. You'll see it kind of summarizes to a point, and then there's kind of a show more to see more details about that particular catalog item detail. For knowledge, same thing you'll see here is you'll kind of see a summary of this particular knowledge article. You open it up, you can see more details about that. Same in these cases. So rendering more details about that catalog item. Business services. This one's going to show basically a summary of that business service, some of the offering information, and then ultimately also if there is if I do a search for one of these, if there's an outage, you'll see some outage information kind of displayed here. Offering health, show less. So you'll get some of the outage and the outage alerts as part of that display. One last thing I want to hit on, I kind of mentioned this on this homepage here. So you'll see there's kind of some new display on these home pages of these listed tickets, kind of more of a summary view. You'll also find this on our other themes. So let me show you what one of these other themes is that has a list of tickets on the home page. So in the past, this used to be kind of our card lister widget would show up here on this home page. Kind of updated this to leverage this new some new widgets that basically use this kind of paginated display to be a faster performing kind of option. So in this case now you'll see kind of a list of my tickets, kind of in a summarized list. In this case the first 5 or the most 5 recent tickets on here, and then an option to view all, and also options to interact with these particular records in those same actions. So that's kind of what I wanted to highlight as far as card listing, some of the performance improvements there, as well as some of the options and edits you can make to improve this kind of list of records. Hope this is helpful. Thank you.